indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Invocation by Grace Baptist Church. Pastor Tarverson.
Mayor and members of the council, I just want to say again that I appreciate that this city still takes a couple minutes to remember that we're still here because of the mercy and grace of God. Let's pray. Father in heaven, we thank you for the privilege to be in America. We thank you for your mercy and grace over the many years that this nation has been in existence. Lord, we have made some mistakes and we've seen some good things. Lord, we realize that we're fallible and you're infallible. We'd ask, Lord, for wisdom. We'd ask for wisdom for this council as they make decisions. They may not seem like they're weighty enough to make any world headlines, but every decision is important. And we have to realize that we need your help. So, Lord, I pray that you'd give wisdom, directing the things that are done and said, and decisions that are made in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle. Barrington. Allen. Charts. Smith.
Here.
Sabers. Rice.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. Approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing in consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Is there anything you wish to remove? Discussion. Okay, entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, one question. On the curb tender, that the price is above the budget amount, where does that come from?
I believe we brought that up at the last meeting, but
Oh,
it's going to
sorry.
come out of the enterprise fund because if we were to wait another year, the cost was going to go up even more.
More?
So it
So we're good.
does not require any general fund support. It'll just come out of the sanitation fund reserve.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address any of these? Roll call, please.
Allen.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sabers. Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. Executive session, accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 125-23 legal. Entertain a motion, go into.
Oh, move to move into executive session.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. To my office, please.
Concessions are open if anyone needs snacks.
No, I like to hear it. Yeah. And more chairs. I know Oh, that's she Yes, that's like I said, we enjoy it. Understand that. I would go back. Understand that. You're not fighting that. And I think they're trying to do something about saying, I mean, that's another way, and another way. Working here. The problem is, when I bought my property, someone of their parents' house, the street that went all the way through the ship house, bring more value. So that was always my goal. When I got to sell, I get sell the lots or sell the big increase. And then three lots. One lot will have a street and house. The lot behind me there is I got to come up with the word. So I'm going to lose access. Which with that to a period extent, I want to build back there.
Use a whole lot. Use a whole lot.
When I think of the assessment, I don't think the revenue to us, they will commit, they will confirm that. I'm not gonna be last if I want to buy lots of $2,000, so if I'm gonna get $75, so I won't get $5. I sure, why can't they answer that? Yeah, but I see that. So, $25,000 for 2 lots, that's gonna be a system. Potential, I say, but nobody. I get it. Oh, sure. No, I tried to push it off first. I thought look at the retention physically because of their lives. They never always went, and that's what developments do. And just in my opinion, right? So it's kind of curious to see how it's yeah, I see. I said, you know, city right away. I moved that for years, and that's where that's nice to be spot. And that's how we access our backgrounds. Okay. Oh,
And we did a little bus thing with them. Or their
I can see what's happening to those things. I can see someone's going to be
anyway, we're
losing it. And somebody buying it. 10 years.
I never got this. I've just been that Justin she doesn't run weekends off. In fact, that's 3 all summer. She has a Saturday, Sunday, Friday afternoon, stays for at our friend's house. They were expecting them to come on. So in that case, some days, 6 of us, I'd be second birthday, Jack Jackson. 2 days. We made
That can't make it. Literally, she has a rare talk about so not rating 2, but like the master basics gives you rest and oxygen. And it hasn't been
medical expert.
well, there's something on the settings. So she said she has got it a couple times and I try to just get her. good.
She would teach them.
So she texted me, saying about what to do.
Based on
I can't make it.
What was this? So she
I
answered
feel like I'm
that.
dying.
Oh, sure. It's like she was
She has a rare muscle. She has to go back. At 21, 24 months. Yeah, they were on ventilators when they were born.
And, yeah, and then.
I don't know what it's called. 3 years old. I can't remember, but she got it. She was just a carrier. And her daughter has it.
So,
And the 5G.
no, I don't think.
5G.
No.
Yeah, she just like has no volume like at night. She barely breathes. So, you know, and then she had knee surgery. And so, no, I don't do it. She's been doing
Summer.
physical therapy. She had
She's
this
never
last
played
week.
athlete, but she loves to bike, she loves to.
So yeah, so she couldn't come.
Get a dog, she walks.
She didn't take a lot of pain meds. When I saw her, last week.
Yes, we're down there.
But she said she would never want to do that. She feels like 5G. If she was in like people, I mean, I was talking to someone.
Most of us. Be different campers.
Right?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Part of the details.
Yes, yes, that
Then the fresh powder that's over by
Get ready for Stanley, go.
that means it's like, and that's where Nancy Dolls was.
I don't know that.
Well, and we never. This was on the auction, my dad.
She was having every
December, her name's.
You'll have to go back and listen to the city council meeting. I can send you the photos. Oh, yeah, you were there. Yeah, you remember her?
Water December.
Well, she was talking about.
And, Albert like, that's what it stated, it has 27 hours.
That's true, that's true.
And 150
But
months.
she has never
And,
she's never talked about the
Switch
church.
out
She's
beds and
the
tires.
inspector. Her husband was exactly
Like,
like
it was all stuff.
he has like 15. But he didn't realize, I mean, I
So anyway, we can take that down.
She had 600 and something antennas and towers about 3 miles from her house.
No wonder why you're right for.
She's having anxiety.
Right, it was on one.
Yeah, well, and I don't think
The shorter one's gotta be. It's nothing fancy.
You just want to buzz around.
But it's, anyway, that's been kind of fun.
we already know it is. Same thing with shop, we already know people are dying. There's all research there.
But it, that's just,
But we can prevent all But see, they don't understand that it can kill.
So, it's kind of next year again.
No, because they didn't, a lot of people feel that they are. Absolutely. Absolutely, another reason why I live in the country.
Then we'll have a.
They won't be putting them out there. Not the little towers.
All solid doors. And I'm not.
But see, there needs to be regulations.
All the wiring, all the HVAC was there.
Really?
The way we did it, they just had to move my switch around. I had Ken, like,
Oh, you want an old card? Well, we have a little booster thing. We have a little booster thing in our house, but see now we have 50 televisions. Oh, yeah.
And then we had 24 inch by 32 windows, well, Now we have 32 by
Oh, no.
So lots of natural light, plus the school. So that'll be, and then Janet's office, wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I might. I mean, because we live out in the country, we don't have exception, but
Yes, for.
like I turn it off.
Resale.
We've had Santel up until a month ago. But now it's just all they
Yes.
So like. So you can block, okay? So like you don't always have a problem. Okay, so now I can set up, say like for EG for like identification, so like for environmental health, EG and SVE.33mail.com. So if you start putting stuff through that email, that's spam, email. It's an alias, type of my husband loves it. And so then you can get rid of all the spam. If you start getting something from that one that you didn't subscribe to, then you can just block that email altogether. It's not a VPN, they do have a VPN, it's not VPN, it's just, no, their email is just an alias. And you link it to Proton or whatever email you want. You just can't respond to social unless you get upgraded, which I'm not gonna pay for that. If I like get a certain email one in my Proton and I respond to it, it'll show my Proton. But I'm really doing everything, because I order or whatever, and I'm sure so it's just like, so I mean, we're getting inundated with emails.
So what these guys have done is
They keep responding, and so I was like, this is
this huge dental lab.
so that's what I'm doing. And I can get rid of some.
So you think you're sending it to So we tried to redirect all departments or
So we talk about it in our house. Oh yeah, Justin Johnson supported that. I'll be seeing him this weekend. Right. Yeah, because then all they have to do is say they think you have some kind of mental illness. They can just say that about anybody. Just like when you say that
So we're gonna take about 4 weeks and put in a conference room.
Yeah.
They're gonna
Has she been doing her drills with soil in the sun?
But we might be running too much. I mean, I can one way down, 2 ways, 2 stairwells.
Okay.
So,
Mix it up the night before.
yeah, it's you and I and maybe a few others.
Going to work out this Just want to walk.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just go out and stand.
And it doesn't have to last all year.
There you get all your hours.
I would say so. And then, you know, it's really nice stories. And there's
Yeah, right.
it's like,
Maybe your mom doesn't like your company.
work hard every day. And so then,
And now they're an executive session.
my dad, so Bauer wins,
Well, they know what, they know what's.
So at the end, and then we're gonna, after we get the downstairs done, we're gonna fresh upstairs. Like I said, we're just like, you know, we're on bond projects. Down to Father's Day. Just crazy. Hundreds of thousands.
I will say this, last fall, summer, my father was a company, they were all, so everything was done. She didn't work him. So,
Chiropractor, right?
Second day Freeman, third day to work all the rest of the took one hole as well. Just locked it all in. I didn't dig case in the summer and I Lincoln and about that, which is also fun. And now but anybody, how about Isabel? Otherwise, you all would have been. In fact, just, you know, trying to slide
This is gonna be nice.
Perfect was great, yes, and this weekend came together, and,
They, you know what, I know, they are such, you know, well, from way back. I got to 16 as a beer boys.
they're Southern Pickers. There's so much happiness. Yeah, it was fun. They used the bus and all. Although behind a pair of spare shoes. Bridesmaids, they shoot my bus. I don't remember which ones they left. 260. I didn't hear that. Before they went on honeymoon, and so they, oh my gosh, how my husband is. Well, it turns out it's your sister. Yeah, you got 21 minutes of baseball. She did. And on the bus. Anyway. Oh, so you found the one that is somewhere else too.
Right, right. But you know how long it takes to usually has.
I think it was come off the bus, no drinks. Not a step bus.
Yes. So instead of now they've got a
That's why she threw the other one in the garbage.
Yes, he was whoever got it. But that's not gonna come.
So I remember that, that's the story.
Yeah, you could tell.
Yeah.
Hey, big kids, tall, all day.
So he's working up the sun for me about 3 days a week and then he's mowing. So. Yeah. But he wanted to. And you're gonna make less money. I want to get a deep.
Well, there's just something about this. Now, my dad does say, this is good.
Right, yeah. So, and Carl.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's great, but also the same. People depend on that's appropriate.
Maybe he just said,
Yeah, 7 Saturdays. So we have 2 Lizzie and Carlos Kirsten is going to be about
I know what it just tells you how to I'll be talking about it.
So you said
and
6 hours.
they're not being regulated.
I didn't know
They're not being regulated.
And I'm still working on
They're like wireless, and they can be like, they can affect you. They're just like having one right on top of your house, and affecting you, the house, but the neighbors. I told them, I already have a plan. The no fault tax, I don't know much about it, then it doesn't help.
Turns out it's kind of like a safety net. Because you have all these guns and all those. Always have a mask.
Look at this, this is all the jobs now.
So anyhow, Justin's I go, Justin, I want you to know. So the systems out there, all this and all He's just I go, it's off. I go down there and shut it off. So he goes, he's one of the guys. So anyhow, long story short, is that my mask was always stuck. I thought it was off. This poor kid's
Right.
and what had happened is it was constantly
Absolutely. What do they
have this
I know. I mean, the 5 big cars, they can't. They can't. I brought my box against the
figured out for me what went wrong.
They could, I mean, in other countries, they burn it down.
Yes, so we understood.
5 minutes, they're gonna leave it be 5 minutes. And I was like,
60 pounds of pressure.
like you said, I have all the questions. They need to talk.
The city did it.
Yes, so like they can put it on, they can put it online, they can put it
I think you'd have to read
don't know. Don't know if there's anything said as far as that goes, there's nothing out there. For any ordinance. Why this isn't an exception to law?
No, I think the potential ones really all want to experience.
Nope. We don't have, I found out we had looked at the agenda on Sunday. Yeah, I looked at the agenda Saturday or Sunday, and I didn't think
He said I never came back.
so I thought, I texted her, she was like, no, she didn't contact me. She's the one that asked about it. So then she emailed them. And see if they respond. Well, they had it when all of us spoke before she brought up these questions. And they never addressed it. They don't feel it's Well, what was involved in the permitting process? What's the permitting process and where is that? What are the stipulations? Well, because it affects as far as, it's like right now, you have no idea, you can go down the street, and there's a light, you don't even know if there's a light.
Oh, no, they were putting on that movement manufacturing.
I don't know. I don't know if you guys. I don't know how to work it. That's what I want to know. Well, I think it's, see, like, I don't know if you as a citizen.
Not west, it's west, yeah.
Yeah, but the city's talking like it's Sioux Falls. They have laws for 7,500.
Seven.
They're making it.
The city's aware of it. Of course, they live down there.
So.
Probably. That's what I would think. It's like you go to the Centennial Search, and I don't think
Some people
she lives, okay, we go on Cemetery Road, you go over by the lake. No, if you go down,
Yeah, I can't, I don't like it. He's actually.
yes, and you go, no, Cemetery Road goes by where, North Ridge is, the cemetery, keep on going down, then you go home and you head towards the lake, and then you take a left, go around the lake, and she's right up there by Cemetery.
How cool. All part of that.
That's the fun ride. That thing has been totally good.
Yes. Yeah, we've already talked to them about that. They know all that information, they just kind of ignored it. Yes, even 4G towers they've taken out. Yeah, it's in California. We talked about that. We told them all, and even if you can, Valerie was telling me today, because I got her nebulizer the other day, you need to have a so she had, I got her one there at Lewis, and I got the face mask. And so she was looking through the pamphlet, and it said something about you need to be careful with other devices, radio frequency and stuff, that it could interfere with the device, that you can't have them close to each other. So she's like, that might be something we want, and I'm like, yeah, it's a good point, but if they don't care about the 1,000 pages that are done, and so much, and all the reasons you give them.
And I did talk to him.
I mean, it's gonna take them dying before they wake up and do something. It's not dairy anymore.
I didn't know if I know the rest of
She's just very sensitive to her. But I mean, I know what happens when I'm around. It does not matter. Does Terry have a laptop and iPad a lot? That will do the anxiety to the max. She doesn't have one. Does she? You guys have those stickers? Well, I think it helps to like, or she could go with somebody. Right. So she should find somebody. What? See, we have everything in our basement. So, like, I don't have to go anywhere.
I don't even have my, I have our one.
See, no matter what. See, you gotta do your 3 to 5, be solo. Like, no matter what, like, if you got home today, you gotta go to work. He'll go down and work out. I don't get to see that.
You'll be asking for the same thing. They just put it in 2 days before. You didn't put they backed out.
What was
Yeah, 4 a.m. is too much.
Because they're aluminum.
They just said it.
And they're, it's been really canopy, so there's just a big safe. So
Depends. Oh, no, I don't do that very often.
shaded.
No, last night I was in bed. 11:30.
Like an auger thing.
And I got up at 6:30, I got up at 6:45. My husband was up at 5. He went to bed at 7. I do like it when I get up at 6, and then that means I gotta get in bed. I need to be in bed by 10:30. So I'm gonna get up at 6. How does that work? I mean, it's Terry's problem. What time does she get up? Well, I can't sleep in. I have the lamp. Maybe we just can't sleep in until we got the dog. We can't take the dog out. So I mean, it's hard. No, it's yeah, oh, he works for you guys. Okay, well, that's okay. What about Lennon? How old is he now? Is he 12? Argos. Okay. So, you know, it's working with delivery drivers and on gas. Like, you'd be losing money on that job. And think about flying, 3,000 flights were canceled on Friday. That's why I'm not flying anymore. She texted me that. Why this is letter long, I don't know, I haven't looked. It's probably not doing well. Oh, yeah, we're already way in. We're going down the road. That's all I can say. So better be praying a lot. Yeah. Yeah. Now what about you? What is it taking?
They went out to see if it was feasible to raise on our committee. And they said, I think you can do 3. But anyhow, the survey they said was they like 300 people, but you can appoint to a bike unless it's the number one reason I don't think you want to be around the lake is not walking and biking the trails, not doing the walls, which I thought was number one. That was like 2 or 3. Yeah, there you go.
Not yet. We got no idea. Soon though, I heard this week.
That's what I wanted to ask you. That's what I wanted to ask you. About what time
Right now, you have wind like you have used it. Yeah. We got home anyway, he said they were going to Mankato tomorrow. Anyway, he said 3 o'clock on Thursday.
Yeah. So you're going to meet them here?
They're going to meet parking lot there, there's like a back there, there's outside. And I'm going to show you
right. And then, yeah, that makes sense.
Rather than bringing them to the building, something like that, right? And where there's like a shower, they're actually going to so we're actually to we can open up the doors. Or adults and raising money. So they're gonna use the arm and go around to the side and walk.
So you're going to meet at 3 or is there other classes? So I'll try to be there.
And then you're gonna provide some.
Well, that's what I was going to ask them. See, they were a couple of guys saying, so I'm so glad that you're not eating some of them some vegetarians. I said, why don't we do it over there? They can get exactly what they want. I understand that. And how we sit down really good. So I think that's what we're going to do. 27.
Yeah, I only knew that Clayton, all the reasons, so.
Because I think all that. Oh, yeah.
Jeremy's on vacation all the time. And it's just those two guys. Jeremy was gonna house them. He being gone, she being gone. That plus, we more. Yeah. He's got bathrooms. Social showers, they don't have showers, they can fall on the other side. But yes, we're just gonna, Monday, we'll take pictures, they can take the bike up on the stage and take the picture. We've got the big freight elevator. The trail vehicles can back up, and all their sleeping gear in. Bikes will go upstairs, and the other ones will open the side. It's gonna be safe, it's gonna be the bikes and bridge stations there. But yeah, 3 o'clock, a little larger. Now I know you're involved, I'll just, he's gonna call me tomorrow. It's gonna give me an update.
I don't know what you're saying, I think they did it in.
Real very possible. Explain the number of years and price of age. Yes, we were, yes. We tried to get that. There was a lot of might have been additional there.
So they're all west. They start out at, oh, I see.
Yes, from Illinois, and they, yeah, they Rochester, Mankato.
Yes, they do.
All kinds of lights across the
Back office. Mosquito spraying is typically done prior to the 4th of July. The mosquitoes they found thus far are the type that are just your common flood mosquitoes, not the ones that bear the West Nile virus. But they will start in before the 4th of July and then continue on several more times in the summer.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wish to address council? Okay, Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for City Council to recess, sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. I will point out there are only 6 of you here, and all 6 must vote in one way or the other for it to pass. So, just so you're aware of that. Hearing and action on application for Bates. Jason Bates applied for variance for maximum lot coverage of 50% versus 45% to construct a detached garage at 1112 North Raleigh Street, legally described as Lot 16, Block 4, D.A. Scott's Addition, City of Metro Davis County, South Dakota. Real property is owned R2. Mr. Jenigas.
I need to let you all know the sound system was muted. It is back on if you're getting questions from people, so it should catch up to them. Sure. The sound system was muted. It's back on now.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission heard this. They recommended approval 4-0 with 3 absent. We sent out 17 letters. It was published in the paper. We received 4 letters back. All of them were in favor of it. Discussion during this is he'd like to build a detached garage that would meet all setbacks. By building the garage, he's going to be at 50% instead of the 45% that's required for a maximum. He's going to move the hot tub that he put in the little building on the north side of the house into there because of the swirling winds, north winds. It gets cold there for him. So then he's going to use that portion for grill and for patio furniture in the summer. He's at, I think, like 49.33% of his lot coverage. It's not taking out any green space. It was already red rock there before, so it'd just be concrete there now instead. Jason's not here, but I can answer any questions if you have them.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on application for DAC Properties LLC. DAC Properties LLC has applied for a variance for a side corner yard setback of 12 feet versus 20 feet to construct an unattached 24 by 24 garage on 43-foot wide lot located at 1001 East 4th, legally described as the west 7.5 feet, Lot 9, and all of Block 10, Lot 10, Block 9, Gleason's Addition, City of Metro Davis County, South Dakota. Property is owned R2. Mr. Jennings.
Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. 21 letters were sent out to the neighboring properties. 2 of them were returned. Both of them were in favor. One did have the note that it should be alley access only. Stephanie, if you can go to the GIS for this one, please. The original lot is actually a 33.5-foot corner lot. So it's a small lot to begin with, and it's supposed to be a 50-foot, I believe, in that area. The house is already setting over further. They'd like to put the detached garage there. Currently, they do pull off of Gamble Street. This garage would be built so that the doors are facing the south side, so they'd have access only from the alley for that. They would leave that parking pad there, though, just so they could park next to the garage, but not actually use that access coming up off of Gamble.
Is that where the no parking across the sidewalk comment came from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. The original was 35, but now it's got an extra 7 feet, so that's why it's 43 feet.
No, I know. I'm looking at 1005. It looks like we need to get the nuisance guy out there to take a look. Sorry.
The photo is from 2020, so just saying.
You better have a check to make sure it's been cleaned up anyway. Mr. Coster, did you get that? So noted. Thank you.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing an action on application for TZ Chiropractic. TZ Chiropractic has applied for this use permit for a parking facility located at 317 West 13th Avenue, legally described as Lot 5, Block 27, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, real property zoned R4. Mr. Jenigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. 18 letters were sent out. We received 4 back, all in favor. TZ Chiropractic owns the lot to the west of this. That's where her business is. They had a rental on this lot. There was a fire in there. They tore down the building. The garage has also been moved from that location. She's looking for, in the future, to expand her business possibly, and she needs more parking because of Sanborn not having any parking on it. So she'd like to expand her parking lot there for additional spots for now and in the future. She's here if you have any questions for her.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Sabers, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearing and action on application for Carl Eye Clinic. Maxwell Risden of Watchfire Signs on behalf of Carl Eye Clinic has applied for conditional use permit to install and operate electric message center in a residential district located at 1415 North Sanborn Boulevard, legally described as lots 1 through 6 and east half of vacated Edmund Street, Block 12, Capital Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, real property zoned R2 and R4. Mr. Jenigas.
Mayor and Council, Planning Commission did recommend approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. I apologize, I did leave off the condition that they had with it. The condition was that the sign be placed on the west half of the existing sign location. If you go out there right now, their current sign is outside the site triangle, so it does meet regulations for that, for height, setback to 35 feet. They'd like to replace that with this sign. That sign there is about 12 feet wide. The new proposed one is 6 feet wide. Where this comes into it is because it's an electric message center. That is a conditional use under the signage code. So they recommended that the sign be placed on the west half of the 12 feet instead of the east half of the 12 feet, because we know that there is some site issues there right now. I think a lot of it might have to do with the wider corners right there, which pushes the stop sign back to the west some.
No issues, Mr. Carl?
None at all.
All right.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Recommitted City Council entertain a motion for Board of Adjustment to adjourn City Council to reconvene regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearings and actions on the following alcohol license applications. On the application Palace City Lions Club for a special event liquor license located at Horseman Sports Arena for July 14, 15, 16, 17, 2022 for the Cornfowler Stampede Rodeo.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster with the Police Department, we have no concerns about this application.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application of the Exchange Club of Mitchell for a special event liquor license located at Cadwell Park for August 3rd through August 14th, 2022 for the State Amateur Baseball Tournament.
Mayor and Council, Chief Coster again, we have no concerns for this application either.
Thank you.
Move to approve again.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Again, further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve letter of intent to explore secondary water source with Randall Community Water District. Mr. Schrader.
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council. This is just a letter of intent for approval to explore a secondary water source with Randall Community Water District. We have been looking at secondary water source options for some time now. I'd like to note that the letter of intent does not bind the city to any monetary obligations. Any agreements with fees associated will be brought back to council for consideration at that time. Staff does recommend that City Council approve the letter of intent to explore the secondary water source with Randall Community Water District.
And so how, you'd enter into discussions once this is formalized with Randall Water then on exploring?
Correct. We'll start
Waters.
conversations on how this would look, how this would be framed, financial obligations moving forward, those types of things.
Okay. Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion?
I just think it's important to at least investigate because of the fact of having a second source is probably pretty prudent. And I know there's cities our size, a lot of them do have a second source, so, and Randall is obviously a little bit south and west of us, so it doesn't hurt to at least look.
No, it doesn't. And of course, we are getting close to our limit on water as well, which we need to start looking at too. So. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to consider pending offers on city-owned real property, the Kelly property. Really isn't any action on this tonight, but we have had an offer. We've been counter on that. Got another counter back, and we are going to counter again after the meeting tonight with this. So we do have some movement on the Kelly property. We've also had some interested parties in it. Mr. Havlick, did you want to speak to any of this tonight?
Not tonight.
Okay. So any questions?
What do we currently have it listed?
Right now it's listed at 2.2?
$2,200,000.
Thank you. $2.2 million. We're not going to tell you what the offers are yet. We are working on back and forth with some negotiations. So
obviously if we're countering, we're serious.
We're serious.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further comments, questions, concerns? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Action to approve Agreement A 2022-17, Developers Agreement for Airport Addition Development with Groenweg Construction. Mr. Schrader?
Yep, Mr. Mayor, Council, this is the last step to finalize this development moving forward. The Woods Circle development was approved at Planning Commission on April 11th. The development will add approximately 21 new single-family housing lots within city limits. A TIF was approved on March 28th in the Planning Commission and at the April 4th council meeting. Plans and specifications have been submitted and approved by DANR and the city, along with the drainage plan. Plans and specifications and drainage plan are on file at the Public Works Office within City Hall here. Just to give you kind of a rundown of what the developer's agreement consists of. It requires the developer to improve the property in accordance with the plans and specifications that were approved by the city ordinances, and all laws and regulations governing the development. The developer will provide water service, sanitary sewer service, and storm sewer for the development. The developer shall dedicate all such improvements within the right-of-way to the city at no cost to the city. The developer is also required to provide on-site observation and testing services by a qualified professional to ensure compliance with the plans and specifications. And with that, staff recommends City Council approval of the proposed developer's agreement. And work will be starting tomorrow, actually.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2022-27, City of Mitchell Water and Wastewater Fee Analysis by HDR. Mr. Schrader.
Mr. Mayor, Council, there you do have an agreement with HDR, which will provide the basis for evaluating the financial funding requirements of the city's water and sewer systems while establishing rates that are equitable and cost-based. The analysis will also provide a cost-based system development charge associated with tap fees or connection fees for new customers expanding their capacity requirements based on the value of available capacity in the water or sewer system. The tasks include project management, data collection and review. There will be a study kickoff meeting, development of financial rate setting policies, revenue requirement analysis, cost of service analysis, rate design analysis, written documentation, system development charge analysis, rate and fee models, and then a public presentation to present their findings and recommendations. HDR has proposed to have the analysis completed by December, and city staff recommends council approval in an hourly not to exceed basis total of $97,620.
Have you seen a final report as an example?
I have.
And you're happy with the results of?
So it's very interesting. It looks at your users all the way from your lowest users up to your maximum users. Looks at how your distribution system uses that water and how the fees should be distributed between those different user categories. So for instance, the one I looked at was in, I believe it was Harrisburg, and their lower water users' rates were actually decreased, and some of their upper rates were increased to help with that equitable water usage across the board and how that affects fees.
In that report that you looked at, Joe, do they still have a base and then usage above that? Is that still the concept?
Yep.
Okay. Well, it just makes perfect sense for some of the higher users to be charged more, I guess, at least in my mind. I will see what the report says and what you guys think. But it certainly makes sense to me.
We're trying to find the most equitable way
Right.
to bill out water usage to the residents.
It showed tiered billing and different kinds of billing scenarios that the city could consider implementing. It was Harrisburg. Yeah.
Do they also look at sewer rate estimation?
The one I looked at, I believe, was just water. I want to say I looked at a wastewater one from Brookings. And basically, it's the same concept, water usage, and then
But
how it affects.
we don't measure sewer, so we estimate it off of water use.
Correct.
I was wondering how that could be folded in.
And they might review how we measure wastewater. It's just, it'll be interesting from an outsider view looking in on how our system is ran, and there are potential tweaks that we could make that would make it better.
The other thing that I liked is they give council at the end of that some guidelines as to measurements to look at what your rates need to be and how you make those adjustments moving forward. So it gives you a better foundation and basis for those decisions in the future.
And they'll review our budgets and our O&M and, project out rates for our projects that we have projected out into the future, our 5-year plan that we have with our ARPA funds. If there's any way that should look different from how we have it proposed.
And this will come from enterprise fund?
Correct.
And are they still fairly confident they can do it yet in '22?
Yes.
Have the report completed?
They do.
I'll make that motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one?
Do you want me to come up or
Yep.
back here fine?
Nope, you got to come up, because you got people who are watching or listening online.
Didn't we just raise the sewer and water rates on everybody just recently? No, I'm all for sewer and water,
I would hope so.
Really think we should invest in that. But spending another $100,000 to get somebody to do another study to make things equitable. I'm pretty sure people that use more water pay a per unit price over their base rate, right? No, don't they already do that? Is it?
The unit rate is the same regardless how much water you use. But obviously,
Yeah,
the more
but
water
the
you use,
base
the
rate,
higher
and
your
then
bill
you pay
is.
more per unit after that, right?
Correct.
Correct, yeah, so we already, people that use more water already pay more. Are you talking about setting the base rate lower for lower income people, or what are you talking to do?
So just for example, like on if we have a project that costs $2 million, right now, typically the way those are structured is we have a surcharge that's set per each individual user. Whereas you could look at it as a weighted scale that is now this person pays this piece of the pie, this person pays this piece of the pie, as it's distributed through the different user categories.
Okay. Make it more complicated.
Maybe.
Sounds like it to me. like
It might-
most
the
government,
low-end
huh?
users, which could be more the fixed income type people, may get a lower rate doing this. Correct. That's what
Okay.
we're trying to do.
So then it
Make
brings
more
in two
equitable
more.
for those who are a lower income.
So then we'll raise the rates on the higher income people,
Very
of
well.
course.
That's,
right?
that's why the word equitable.
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 We love that term, don't we?
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah.
yeah,
This is government. Anyway.
So Reed kind of brings up a fairly decent point, though. Is there an ability to maybe offset the 97 somewhere along the line to make this at least neutral? Or since it's coming out of the enterprise fund, I mean, I know we
And it
still.
does say water and wastewater too in here, right? So it-
Yeah, we're reviewing both of those rates. Yeah, we do have the money in our enterprise set aside. When it comes through to, after we get done with the rate analysis, it could show that, our costs, could be tweaked slightly so that we are able to, correct. Yep.
I think back to what Joe originally said, right now when we're doing our surcharges, we're adding the same surcharge to everybody's base rate. So if that adjustment comes in that we can structure that differently, you might be able to recover it out of that restructuring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bender.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Agreement A 2022-28 Corn Palace Gift Shop contract. As you are aware, this August, the current gift shop contract ends. Thank you, Mrs. Beck, for bringing that to our attention. We thought we had another year left before we had to discuss this, but as we've been looking at this, the Chamber and the Treasury Development Corp has come forward with a proposal for 1 year. Mr. Johnson, you want to go through it?
Yeah, I won't go through the contract in detail, but there's just a couple of points. I mean, a majority of the contract is similar to what you've seen in past years, and I think the bigger changes would be that this is just going to be a one-year deal. We've done some multi-year deals in the past. I think the intent would be is if we're going to renew it, so the one that you're approving tonight would be for summer season 2023. If we were going to do another contract for 2024, the intention would be for us to, approve one of those by May 1st of next year so that the Chamber has plenty of notice and they know whether they're going to have it for the year following. So I think there may have been some confusion on that when people were reviewing the materials, but that's the intention there. This is just a one-year deal. The May 1st date in there for next year would just be for discussion on a future contract. Outside of the term, the fee structure was tweaked so that there was an increase to the base rate, and there's also some profit sharing in there as well. And then I think the only other major change would have been to how we're going to be handling branded merchandise for the most part outside of the summer season, but some of it during the summer season too. So I guess unless there's any questions, I can turn it over to Jerry if she's got any comments, or council if there's questions.
It's up to you.
Sure, why not?
Come join the party.
There you go, there you go. Good evening, council and mayor. Jerry Beck with the Development Corporation in the Chamber. Well, it was kind of a broken road that got us to here, but here we are, and we're glad to have the tourism concessions for another year, and hopefully we can agree for another year by May of next year. So we're having a good years so far. However, it's not going to be like last year. We're about 25% down. Not a surprise, but still a disappointment. But we'll work it through and see how it goes. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you have.
I think that coincides with what Doug's seen for numbers. You're down about 20, 25% too, correct, Doug?
Yes.
The buses are back. That's really nice. It's busier, so.
Well, gas is going up. Maybe they'll stay closer to home.
Yeah.
Come visit us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody else in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-32, plat of lots A1, A2, and A3, a subdivisional lot of Mulmer's subdivision in the northeast quarter, Section 14, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Primary Indian, Davis County, South Dakota, as requested by Keith Perry Young. Mr. Janigas.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. This is outside city limits, but it's within the ETJ, so it is our jurisdiction. County has heard this and approved it already. Go to the plat of it or the GIS. It's going into 3 lots. Young's own the furthest east lot to the south. That it would be A3. I believe it's their son that owns the house next to him, which would be purchasing A2, and then A1 will stay with Young's himself. There is an access easement on the plat off of Justin and Carey's to get up to A2, and then there is access easement to lot A1 off of Southview Drive to the west of A1.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-33, a plat of Lot 02 of Titsy's Addition, the south half of the southwest quarter of Section 24, Township 103 North, Range 61 West of the 5th Primary Indian, Davis County, South Dakota, requested by Keith County School.
Mr. Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this 4-0 with 3 absent. This is outside the ETJ but within the 3 miles, so it is county's jurisdiction. The county approved it yesterday at commission. The applicant is combining the 2 lots that were there before into 1 lot so that they can build a shed across the property line there. They own the lots to the south. There's a 33-foot wide right-of-way that separates the 2 of them. But that has access all the way over from 405.
Motion by Mr. McCardle.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-36, plat of Lot 2, Block 5 of the Woodland Heights First Edition subdivision, Lot 2 and Tracts 2 and 3, Block 1, and all in Cranes Edition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, as requested by Ethan Co-op Lumber. Mr. Janigas.
Mayor and Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this one 4-0 with 3 absent. This is just inside the city limits. They're plating out for another dwelling there. It's following their original master plan.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve Resolution R 2022-37, plat of lots 1 through 4, Block 1, lots 1 through 12, Block 2, lots 1 through 22, Block 3, lots 1 through 30, Block 4, lots 1 through 46, Block 5, lots 1 through 5, Block 6, Apache, Cheyenne, Sioux, and Dakota Avenues, all of the South Lake Estate subdivision of the City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, requested by CGM Consultant. Mr. Jenigan.
Mr. Mayor, Council, Planning Commission recommended approval of this one 4-0 with 3 absent. CJM owns the whole interior of this. They are not doing anything outside of Indian Head except for the Block 6 on there. This is just the plat that we were discussing tonight, not the PUD that will be heard next week at Planning Commission, then 2 weeks after that for council readings. They are vacating some of the existing alleys that were in there. If you go back to the GIS, if you would, please. The yellow lines are what is the existing in there. So on the outside of Indian Head, where there's no red, that all still stays the same. The inside would be the new blocks with the roads are existing. It's just changing the road names to what he would like, since it's his land, his development right there. So they're vacating the alleys in between in the block halves. And then Dakota Street used to go from south of, from Indian Head Drive down to South Harmon. That one stays the same. It just stops once it gets to Indian Head and doesn't continue any further north there. All of the lot widths and lot sizes still fit within RL right now. That's 75 and 7,400, I believe is what it is. And these are, the smallest in width is 85 and 10,030. So it still fits within the RL, which is what it's zoned right now. But we're just going off of the plat for anything discussion tonight. Chuck's here if you have any questions for him, or I can answer anything as well.
I know we're just discussing the plats tonight, but all of us received several emails of some concerns, and I think hopefully the communication stays open as we kind of work through this. And I know, Chuck, you're always willing to visit with anybody at any point in time, and we're encouraging people to reach out. But some of the other issues, and I know Joe can help us out at some point in time, is the drainage and the lift stations and sewer and so forth. So those were some of the concerns that was, I guess, relayed to us. And I know, Mayor, you responded back with some of their concerns and questions. But I think there's just a little more we need to do to educate people.
So what we're approving here now, are there 85-foot lots?
Yes.
Okay. Before it was 70.
The previous, I'm Chuck Mashesky, CJM. The previous master plan was smaller lots, 75.
That's right.
We had a master plan approved in December, which is this one now, and the plot is this one now. And yes, what you're doing tonight is the plot. But I stood up for one reason. We've spent a few months working on what I call phase one of our plan. And so we are coming back with different things. But I assumed that you were having some calls from some folks. And so I wanted to say a few things, and only a couple, three. We will be back with a plan development. We will have, we're under an agreement with a nonprofit that to do our phase one. And we're excited about it, how we're going to do it. I've never seen the city and the chamber and a developer and come together quite like I've seen the beginning of this. And so with your calls that you're getting, we've met a couple times with neighbors. Nothing has happened out there for 40 years. And so it's quite a change to what's happened out there for 40 years. But we're pretty positive about it, and it was what it was intended. So I would just say that, without getting the cart before the horse, that might be what some of your calls are about. And so we're doing our phase one, and we're pretty positive about it. And we'll be back in the next month or so. Thanks.
Thank you. I think Mr. Jennings found that this was originally platted back in 1930 was when it all kind of started, and then
yes.
75 the interior was platted?
So the exterior loop of South Harmon Drive, all the lots that are on the lakeside, was platted in 1930. Then the middle portion was done in 1975 and had all the roads going north and south through it. And that's when the connecting roads, I'll call them, that go from Indian Head to South Harmon, the four of them all got brought in. And then in 1978, they changed it again, and the roads all go east-west now, except for where Dakota Street was going up through the north portion of it to connect. The four connecting roads still all stayed the same back in 78, and now with this one, He's keeping all the east-west, changing the names of them, keeping the 4 that are connecting. It's just vacating the alleys and vacating that portion of Dakota Street so you can get a couple more lots through there.
It also made the lots slightly bigger, didn't it?
The lots are slightly bigger, but they're a little shallower in depth than what we normally see. Most of them are 112 feet deep instead of the 142 that we're used to, but they're 85 feet wide still. The smallest lot there is Lot 3, Block 1, which is 85 by 118.26 feet. So it's still well over the residential lake standard, that's 7,500 feet.
Questions? Motion by Mr. McCardle. Second by Mr. Sabers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. What? Oh, okay, sorry. Second reading on ordinance 0202208, amending Mitchell City Code Section 6-1-1 regarding animals at large. Mr. Johnson.
All right, well, we had this on for first reading at the last meeting. After that meeting, there were a couple of points that I was asked to address. So you also see tonight an alternate 1, which I'm not going to go back through what we talked about 2 weeks ago, but we'll talk a little bit about alternate 1. So the highlighted portions would be the changes in there. In the definition for at-large, added language that says, however, an animal present at a public gathering of 10 or more people, not including leash-free parks, must be restrained by a leash and not by verbal command and pet collars. There was a concern about public events and things like that, and animals not being on a leash for those. So that's the solution that we came up with for that one. There was also some concern about how far a dog might be from a particular owner. And it was difficult to come up with a set standard, but basically what we did is come up with the highlighted portion that you see there. For verbal commands and remote pet collars to be deemed to be restraining the animal shall behave as if on a leash, short enough to prevent any non-consensual contact with another person, short enough to prevent trespass onto the private property of another, and in no event longer than 50 feet. So it sets an absolute maximum for how far a dog or animal could be away from the handler. It prevents them from going on somebody else's land if they're off the leash, and then hopefully it prevents them from making contact with anybody who doesn't want to. So that was the solution for that one. And I guess with that, we can open it back up for any other commentary. If council is going to adopt the additional language here tonight, we'll end up needing to bring it back for another second reading at the next meeting.
So do you want us to postpone it for 2 weeks, or?
No, I think if you're wanting to amend it with that new language, I'd ask that you make a motion to amend the ordinance with the new language, and then because it's a substantial change, that means that state law requires us to bring it back again in 2 weeks. So if that's the direction that you're going tonight, it would just be the motion to amend with the new language.
How long have we had a leash ordinance in place, Justin? Any idea or close to it? Because we've got some people that are even, we're surprised that we even have a leash type ordinance.
I would guess that probably the basic concept would go back to that 1984 code, and there's probably portions of it that have changed since then, but I would guess that some of it was in place as far back as that.
I don't know if it was an ordinance, but when I was a kid, you had to have a dog on a leash.
I like the part where you gotta have at least, 10 people. They have to be on a leash. You don't want dogs running around the courthouse not on a leash. People bring their pit bulls and all that stuff up, but I think they all should be on a leash down there. But I think it's good that we have 10 or more people, because there's always 10 or more people down there.
So if I'm at a ball game, do they have to be there? I was just at a couple of this afternoon, 30 people in the stand. All the dogs I seen there had leashes.
More than 10 people.
But they could have but they cannot have a mechanical collar on it or not?
I would say in that situation, they would need to be leashed.
Just the baseball team would make 10 people.
No, well, they were back behind a crowd, but there was 4 dogs. They're all playing. They weren't crowding.
They are until one of them gets mad.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And as I said last time, there'll probably be some learning curves, and we'll hit a few bumps once we switch over to something like this. But I think it's all that it's all stuff that we can work through. So.
Is there any other cities that have something similar like this in the top 10? Do you know of?
If we're comparing to South Dakota, I think any of the communities that have a leash ordinance just require leashes. I don't think any of the other ones that I've looked at have allowed verbal or pet collar. We'd be pioneers, I guess.
I know.
Well, I'll move approval of the amended version.
Okay, motion by Mr. Rice to approve the amended version.
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? So this will in essence be first reading. We'll have another reading in 2 weeks. Just clarify that. So further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 26, motion to adopt, will take place in 2 weeks. Second reading on ordinance 020-2209, amending Mitchell City Code, Chapter 6-1A regarding vicious animals. Mr. Johnson?
All right. So this one, there have not been any changes since last meeting. We kind of walked through in detail what the major changes were last time. I'd say there's a few points that are departures from what we've been doing, but a lot of it's just changing over the terminology too. So I'll just leave it open for questions.
No question, I'll make the comment I did last time. I like the fact that it doesn't talk about dogs, it talks about animals, so it can apply across to whatever it might be. And the rating category, from what I could find on research and other things, seems to be in line with how, if you want to call it, how bites are categorized. I'm not going to say dog bites, because it could be any type of animal. With that, I'll move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Savers. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address the motion? Roll call.
Smith.
Aye.
Savers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle. Allen.
Aye.
Motion carries. First reading on ordinance 020-2211, revising provisions of Chapter 4-2 Liquor Control. Mr. Johnson.
All right. Well, you're lucky enough to hear from me again. I'll try to keep things short. Basically, this is going to revise our existing open container ordinance and make a couple other small changes. The existing approach doesn't necessarily apply to everywhere in the city that you'd probably consider to be public land. So this sets kind of a new starting base, sets a wider net for where it's going to be prohibited in general. And then it is a lot more specific about the exceptions about where it would be allowed. So just kind of walk through a couple of those places that are covered by an on-sale alcoholic beverage license. People would still be able to have open containers there. We'd still have areas designated under consumption permits. The product sampling is something that's allowed for under state law, so we just accommodated it there too. We also included language to allow it at a city-owned facility if there's a valid rental agreement in place. I know that like the JVCC will do events like that, also some park shelters. We also included language for Lake Mitchell, so that it would be allowed there on the water or on the ice, as long as you're within the lake bounds itself. And then we talk about the parklands abutting the shoreline of Lake Mitchell. And then we designate out a few facilities here. We talk about soccer complex, Mitchell Activity Center, Cadwell Sports Complex, where we then also leave open the ability of the Park and Recreation Board to set additional rules on how they might want to restrict it there. So council's just saying that it can be done at that facility, but it's leaving the ultimate question on any more restrictions to the Park and Rec Board. Similar to the other parklands throughout the city, leaving the decision for those to the Park and Recreation Board. And then the golf course, kind of same thing that we've talked about, leaving those additional restrictions to the Golf and Cemetery Board. Something that's new is we added some language regarding glass alcohol containers. We're not restricting those in any of the existing licensed premises, but we're saying that those would not be permitted at any of the public locations. So we don't want them at streets, we don't want them at parks, we don't want them in the roads or anything like that. So hopefully cut down on litter and harmful glass from causing any problems. The next change you see there under B is basically carryover language, just again talking about kind of the special event permit process. I'm going to skip C for a second here and I'll come back to that. Under section 2 you see another change. That one's to our existing minor ordinance. Basically ours is more restrictive than what state law would currently allow. So this would allow a bar to employ somebody who's between the age of 18 and 21, who's not yet 21. They can work there as long as they're meeting the provisions of state law. Right now, our ordinance would not allow somebody under 21 to be there. So this just brings it in line with state law. And then
I was approached by some restaurant owners that said this is an issue because they're having obviously trouble getting people to work. This will help with that.
And then the last part here, if we go back up to the section 1 under C, this was something that kind of came up during the COVID era where we had some businesses that were trying to do takeout orders and things like that. They were trying to find a way to allow people to still order a mixed drink or something like that with their to-go food order. So we tried to come up with a way to be able to accommodate that in our code. So really what this would do is similar to how you can do with wine now. If you've got a partially consumed bottle of wine, you can have them seal that and you can take it home with you. So this would be the same concept but applied to a couple of other situations. You know, they've got requirements that they have to seal the beverage as it leaves the premises. It's got to be a tamper-proof container so that you can see if it's been opened, that kind of thing. So again, it's just kind of something that came up and we thought we'd try to find a way to accommodate it. So with that, I guess we'll open it up to any questions or public commentary.
the part of the taking a drink with you, so if you're half done with the cocktail, as you're waiting for your food comes, you can take it with you? Or did I misunderstand that?
So the way that it is right now, you say that you're at a restaurant, you're eating a meal, and you've got a bottle of wine that you order with your
Well, I
meal,
understand
or
the
you bring
wine.
one in.
I know
Yeah,
that
so this would be the same concept for, some other beverage that you might have ordered. So it could be partially consumed beer or something like that. As long as they find a way to seal it back up, we would say that our ordinance would not stop them from taking it with them.
With just an on-sale license?
Yeah, that's the way that it's structured in here. Now, we're not saying that state law is going to allow them to do that. That's something that they're going to have to figure out on their own.
Okay.
We're just removing the local impediment to that.
So you couldn't get out, caught for open container then in your vehicle?
If it's not sealed.
Yeah, if it's sealed, I would think that, it's going to be a question for how the state's attorney on how they want to view that. But I think from our perspective, as long as it's sealed, it's not going to violate our local ordinance.
And how often is it going to happen? Probably never.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't expect that a lot of places would take advantage of it because I think it is potentially risky for them as far as the state aspect of it goes. But, state laws change and we could be ahead of the curve on the issue. So not something that needs to be in here. Council could certainly take it out if they want, but it was just an effort to try to address that subject.
I think it all makes sense. And I guess we can put it on first reading, and if people got concerns, they can get a hold of us. So I'm going to move to place on first reading.
Okay, motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second, Mr. Arnold. I will say this gets us a lot closer to what's happening versus what our current ordinance does not allow a lot of the situations that are going on out there today. Okay, further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Input on 5G. Ms. Van Erdwin, you're up. You get 5 minutes this time.
Well, it was supposed to be Beth, but, she's told you her health has been declining and she's so sick that she can't come. So she has a ventilator at night, and so she can't really breathe, and so I don't know what her situation is going to end up being. But you should have these questions that she emailed you. I think these were questions that were brought up before at previous meetings. You should have those in an email. I know she communicated with you, Mayor, in that regards. I'll just run through these quick. Do you have a 5G plan or guidelines established?
We have, go for it, Mr.
I'll just say that we do have an existing small cell facility ordinance. It's not specific to 5G.
Okay. And do you know the ordinance number? Like if I go to look, how do I look it up and what's the number of it?
Not off the top of my head, but
Okay. So I just search small cell ordinance?
Yes. Yeah, if you search small cell, you find
Okay.
Title 9, Chapter 9.
Okay. So has the city received funds to put in 5G small cells?
Nope.
No.
I told her that
Okay.
several times.
Have you considered the safe method of fiber optics?
We have fiber optics in the city, so
For 5G, though?
we don't control the 5G. The only thing we can control is the small cell.
Okay,
We've
yep.
gone to the PUC, we've gone to the Department of Health. We have no control over any of that.
But the small cells are 5G?
Small cell, we do have some control, and we have
Okay.
stuff in place for that. We have a licensing system in for that. Nobody has applied, claim our price is too high, they never will, so,
Okay, I'll have to look at that.
I believe we did that about 4 or 5 years ago.
yes. No,
3
3
years.
years.
Let's see.
Since
Okay.
yeah.
I can tell you here in a second. Ordinance 2018-18, December 2018.
Okay. You don't have any agreements with Verizon or other wireless companies?
Nope. They'd have
Okay.
to pay us to put one in.
Okay, so, I guess the question would be, I'll have to look at the ordinance, I've never seen it. I guess our question would be is concerning on how easy it would be. I know you're saying that it's not going to be easy. I guess
I
I'd
didn't say it
have,
wasn't easy. I said they don't want to pay the money.
they don't want to pay the
Not in
money.
there.
So how much is for a permit?
Is it $250 per small cell?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think it's $210
$210 per cell?
per site,
Okay, per site?
which is
Is that per
the,
month or per year?
I believe that's annual. It's basically the maximum that's allowed by the FCC.
Okay. And is there any vetting? I mean, like, is there any limit number on how many that they can, like, say like Verizon comes and they want to apply for a variance or an ordinance and they want to put in 400? Is there a limit on the number they can do? Is there?
There's not any firm limit, but we do require them to provide basically coverage maps to show the need for it.
Okay. So there's really no limit. So they, I mean, could, if they do have the money, they could come and apply for, say, 400 and just start placing them in the town with no recourse to anybody.
They'd have to provide a coverage map showing what they're doing.
Right, but if they, what I'm understanding though is if they have the money, then they could, there's no stopping them, is what you're saying. If they have the money, there's nothing.
We would, if they start coming in for 400, we're going to require them to give us a coverage map showing why they need that map.
But what is the legal recourse for the community residents? I mean, this is a serious health issue, and I don't think you guys really understand.
I would tell them, if it is a serious health issue, you guys, you certainly can hire an attorney and file a class action suit against the FCC as well as Verizon.
They've already, the Supreme Court decision has already been made.
We have nothing we can do with anything except small cell.
Well, that's what I mean, but small cells are serious, and I don't know if you understand.
We don't have small cells.
I know that, but I don't think what we're concerned about is I don't think you're understanding the gravity of the situation. You're poo-pooing off all of the 5G stuff. The towers we have now, the 4 and the 5G, are affecting people now. So if you think the small towers, I mean, I'm trying to get you to think about the information we give you.
They may very well be affecting people. I'm not a doctor. I can't say that.
Well, doctors don't know about it. They just don't know about it. They're not taught about it.
Well, what I'm saying
I'm just going to tell you
is
that.
we have no control over the big towers.
Right, I understand that.
The PUC doesn't control them. Department of Health has no control over them. That you have to go to the FCC.
Right, I understand
If
that.
you really feel strongly, you need to go to the federal government over it.
There's already been companies that have actually gone, and they did a district, we told you about this, back in D.C., and that court came back with a decision, so.
Your
All right,
time's up.
thanks.
Okay, executive session in accordance with South Dakota Codified Law 125-24, employee negotiation. Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Ricardo. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. There will be no action after executive session. You do what?
Unmute you.
We're good.